If there was a slow-moving coup, let me just describe some of the steps, and you tell me if I'm being paranoid. First, create a masked police force. Normalize snatching people off the street. Get them used to that.
There is incredible work on non-COVID related mRNA vaccines related to cancers and related to neurologic conditions.
I want to start the day off with a few clips of Bill Maher sounding the alarm of the Trump administration and their various corrupt actions, their authoritarian actions with the mobilizing of the National Guard. So if you can, take a moment, leave us a like on the video. It helps us out a ton. It lets our channel grow, and let's get right to the discussion.
If there was a slow-moving coup, let me just describe some of the steps, and you tell me if I'm being paranoid. First, create a masked police force. Get people used to looking at that. Normalize snatching people off the street. Get them used to that. Normalize seeing the National Guard and the military on the street. Then start talking about crime in the capital, which is basically, has always been a fairly crime-ridden city. This is our nation's capital where elections are decided. And then because the crime is so bad, have other states start sending their troops. Not just the National Guard there in D.C., but now at least 6 other states are sending their troops, which then Trump can then federalize.
And for me, where this gets scary is if another January 6th was to happen, if Trump wants his fraudulent electors accepted or the peaceful transfer of power delayed, he doesn't have to call on random civilians anymore and tell them to fight like hell. He has a personal military at his disposal. And Bill Maher is also spot on in this clip. What is essentially the institution of fascism is what we're seeing, where you do have to do it subtly in sorts, right? Like, we're not going to see him come out and say, I'm a fascist, I'm trying to destroy democracy, but every action he takes either directly does that or aids that goal in the long run. And the militarization of the streets of DC is no different, where again, just on January 6th, Trump said he has no jurisdiction to do so, that he couldn't have called the National Guard against his MAGA dogs if he wanted to while they were breaking into the Capitol. But now all of a sudden he can, as crime is on the decline in DC. Like, was he lying then or is he lying now?
Broken windows policing, more law enforcement on the street, less crime. He's proving that, and I think he's challenging other cities that have huge problems as well, that they should get a bit tougher and solve them.
Well, I don't think 1 week proves anything. I mean, when he was out giving, as you noted in your opening, pizza to people, he said this has been a huge success. DC is now, based on 1 week, based on 1 week.
Well,
I don't know. I would love.
So
I would love to meet the statistician who would extrapolate from 1 week and say this is a sustainable solution. By the way, it ends after 30 days.
It's also grace they would, of course, not extend to anyone on the left ever. Joe Biden has inflation coming down for 2 straight years, but it's still a problem when Trump is coming into office. He had border crossings lower than when Trump left office for months when Trump came into office, but now it's still a problem that Trump had to fix. Yet Trump had a good 7 days in one city, and we have to give him a victory. What I want to point out is how obvious it should be to everyone that these people are desperate to give Trump any win possible because they know that he's been failing demonstrably in front of all of our eyes. Also, this man's pretty off base with the claims he's making here. You probably shouldn't talk about things you haven't researched. More police will typically lead to increases in crime, not decreases. There's different reasons as to why you could say that is so, but there's also data that shows a relationship between an initial police stop and criminal behavior months later. Like, you having an interaction with the police, leading it to be more likely that you commit a crime in the future. And we also know that harsh punishment is shown to be less effective than rehabilitative measures in deterring crime. So what is he even talking about?
I was a guy who did not want the COVID vaccine, but I do want research on mRNA.
Sure.
I don't think that that's crazy stuff.
Right.
In fact, when the next one comes along, I may want to be first on line for it.
Right.
So I'm not down with, I like Bobby too, but I'm not down with him cutting that shit.
Yeah, so mRNA is in every single one of our cells. DNA, RNA protein is kind of like the pathway. So mRNA itself is not bad. And the messaging around mRNA vaccines has led people to believe that anything that carries the letters mRNA is bad. We are all here, and we would not be here were it not for mRNA. mRNA vaccines are a relatively new technology, controversial because of their implementation during the COVID pandemic. And indeed, there are people out there who either insist on or have evidence that they have vaccine injuries of some sort. And that has been the rationale for removing this $500 million of support for mRNA research. I'm going to get some hate. I might get some love. Doesn't really matter to me. What is important for me to say is that there is incredible work on non-COVID related mRNA vaccines related to cancers and related to neurologic conditions and many genetic diseases and many, many things for which we...
To me, this again just shows the danger in conspiracy brain rot, where going down these conspiracy theory rabbit holes, even when they seem innocent at first, is not healthy for anyone, and it's overall damaging for society, where now a major party in our country is so lost down them that they deny the efficacy of one of the greatest medical achievements of recent history and the COVID vaccine, the science behind it, and as a result are now attacking the mRNA vaccine because, oh, it equals COVID. Thus, the cancer patients who could possibly be helped down the line are now SOL as well, all because of a political battle. It's sickening to my core, truly, and I just hope, if anything, like if there's anything to be gained from this, that going forward, it begins the process of decoupling politics from science and health, as these are things that will cost lives down the line. And MAGA is cheering it on, thinking it's of less value to them than a tax cut that will almost most definitely lose them household income, unless they're wealthy enough that they probably didn't need it in the first place, at least not as much as little Timmy might have needed the prospective cancer treatment that he may never get now just because of this.